The biggest discovery in RuneScape history ever has just been found, and today we're gonna take a look at it. So this story begins about a year ago. I wanted to do a video exploring the history of the RuneScape website, something that should be possible with a website called the Wayback Machine. On the Wayback Machine, you can put in the link of just about any website and essentially go back in time to whatever date you want and browse that website exactly like it was. But for some reason, in around 2007, the RuneScape website was removed from the Wayback Machine. When I reached out to Jagex asking why, a JMod told me a setting was changed on the RuneScape website to stop malicious users from crawling and scraping it, which, to make things simple, is the process of downloading an exact copy of the website, something a lot of private servers and fake RuneScape phishing sites were doing at the time. When Jagex made this change, the Wayback Machine also made its backups of the website private, and for the last decade or so, nobody has been able to see them. So for that video I was working on a year ago, I had to use other backups of the RuneScape website, most of which were incomplete, and there were very few of them. But that all changes today. Cook Me Plox over on the RuneScape Wikis team reached out to Jagex over a year and a half ago to try and get the website unblocked, and it actually finally happened. This is easily the biggest unearthing of RuneScape data ever, as there's over 5 million web pages to go through. I don't have time to show all of them, and even if I did, I'd like to spend my time a different way. But let's rewind back to 2000 and go through some. But first, I have to talk about something a bit more modern. The sponsor of today's video, Hero Wars. Hero Wars is an online action RPG with more than just the usual boring RPG tropes. You can collect heroes like cyborgs, aliens, vampires, and yes, even catgirls. When you first start the game, you'll have access to the campaign mode, which has over 130 missions, a unique storyline, and even these fun little puzzles every few battles. I know you've seen them in ads before, and every time the hero fails, but not this time. Aside from the campaign mode, Hero Wars also has 6 different game modes available, like the Tower, where you fight through waves of enemies and earn gold and artifacts. This may sound like a lot to take in, but Hero Wars is super easy to play, and you can play it just about anywhere. Join over 100 million other players in Hero Wars today and get a super chest with 5 top heroes, one of them is a secret, as well as 600 emeralds and 30,000 gold. Just scan this QR code or download the game using the link in the description below, and I'll see you in game. Thanks again to Hero Wars for sponsoring this video. What you're looking at right now is the oldest copy of the RuneScape website ever, along with what's believed to be previously lost images of RuneScape Classic. I discussed this with Log, a RuneScape Classic expert from previous videos, and was told that 3 out of these 6 screenshots are from places that never made it into the full game, or were reworked beyond recognition. This clump of trees not only does not exist in the game, but neither do the trees. The round tree was redesigned before launch, and the bright trees in the top left were just never used. This wild herd of sheep also doesn't exist, and this image is believed to maybe be Bob's axes in Lumbridge. But the outside buildings look different than Lumbridge today, and there's a unicorn roaming the streets for some reason. Helmet plumes shown in the previous 2 screenshots were also changed before release from blue to red. If we scroll down just a little bit, you RuneScape history buffs may also recognize this image as the first ever map for RuneScape, which gives me the perfect opportunity for a useless RuneScape fact that I've been holding on to for months, trying to figure out what video I could use it in. You probably recognize a few of the locations on this map. The bottom half is actually pretty accurate to what RuneScape looks like today. We have Lumbridge Castle, Port Sarim, Al Kharid, and so on. But you might also notice that Port Sarim and Al Kharid have switched spots. It's as if somebody took RuneScape's map and flipped the image. Well, it turns out that's kind of exactly what happened. A few months ago, Paul Gower went on Excel and KK Comics' Boomerscape podcast, which I've been on, so totally check that episode out, and explained that when the map creation tool for RuneScape Classic was made, Andrew made a teeny little mistake. Everything created in the map editor would be flipped in the live game. This might only be something that blows stoners and drunks' minds, but just imagine for a second if Andrew didn't make that one mistake. All of the bottom half of RuneScape would be flipped the other way. Like, I'm just thinking, what kind of weird butterfly effect stuff could have happened if the map was never flipped? Back to the website, other than those images, there's not much else to say about the 2000 2000 website, as RuneScape wasn't out yet. So let's fast forward a few months to 2001. The homepage definitely has a lot more going for it. For example, there's a few guides that you can access on the sidebar, but what I find most interesting is the current players page. So high scores didn't exist at the time, but you could see every player currently online, their account age, and how many hours or days they've played. It's not like today where you can tell your clan you're going to sleep, turn off private chat, and keep woodcutting silently. By the way, you should totally join my clan. If you were online, everybody in the game knew you were online. A few months later, when 2 more servers were opened, it was instead updated to just show the top players online at the time on each server. For example, whoever had the highest prayer skill on the server at the time would be listed as the top cleric, which is a pretty funny term for RuneScape. I've never heard that used before. If we hop on over to the left sidebar again, you might also notice that the website has a few chat boards, and they're mostly full of total nonsense. Remember how you acted on the internet when you were 10? Yeah, it's basically that, but if there were 1,000 different clones of you. There's suggestions like school time, Andrew, please read, and how do you do pirate treasure quest? But the best suggestion has to be, should be able to have sex. Let's check out the clans board though. Stay out of Thurgo's house. Oh, well, that's weird. That link isn't archived, but the post above it and below it are archived though. Thurgo, what's going on in your house? What did you do? I guess we'll never know. I'm sure there's some real gems in these forums, but we don't have time today to trudge through them, and a lot of the posts themselves weren't archived. So let's fast forward to 2002. It seems like on the 2002 version of the website, RuneScape is still the focus, but Jagex is definitely trying to make sure that their other projects get seen too. This is right around when Jagex was getting into financial trouble, as RuneScape wasn't paying the bills it cost to run itself anymore, so maybe they were trying to branch out and show people that they could do other things. A strategy that I have to say has not really worked out for modern Jagex either. You may also notice on the left that there's no more chat rooms or forums. They were shut down in November of 2001, less than a year after being launched, and I think based on the post I showed you earlier, you can guess why. The online player viewer was also removed, but it was replaced with high scores for each skill. There's some names on there like Blue Rose 13X, the Old Knight, and even Zezima. The best part of the high scores though is what's at the bottom. There's a placeholder box for the carpentry skill, a skill similar to construction that never ended up releasing. Before we move on to 2003, I also want to show off the guide they wrote up for RuneScape. It's really in-depth, has a ton of pictures, and is overall pretty handy. Or at least it was 20 years ago. It's totally useless today. On to 2003, the homepage has been restored to focus entirely on RuneScape. The Wayback Machine also seems to have archived this obnoxious ad that I'm sure a lot of younger players, myself included, fell for back in the day. Looking at the news section, we're about a year away from the launch of RuneScape 2, but that didn't stop scammers from sending out a fake beta of it to try and hack you. It got so bad that Jagex had to make an announcement about it to make sure people didn't download it. There's another news post where Jagex shows off screenshots of the new 3D engine that RuneScape 2 would use. For the most part, all the screenshots look the same as when it was released, besides a few slight changes. Most notably, items look pretty weird. This is a tinderbox, and I think this is supposed to be a cabbage, but it's hard to tell. My favorite though has to be this screenshot. Everything in the chat box is lowercase for some reason, and every equipped item just looks wrong. I actually don't even think you can get that shield in the game. If we check the high scores again, the Old Knight is now in first place, and Zezima is pretty hot on his tail at rank 5. Let's make a quick pit stop to December of that same year. The website has gotten a pretty significant redesign, and the RuneScape 2 beta had launched. While reading through the beta info, I learned that originally the Lumbridge home teleport was going to need runes after the beta ended, but it was made free for everyone temporarily so they could get out of somewhere if they got trapped. But because that's a pretty smart feature to have, it seems Jagex decided to keep it free forever. The forums also made their return in November, but unfortunately the Wayback Machine hadn't archived them. 2004's website, for the most part, looks the same as 2003's, with just a few slight changes depending on the month. As for the high scores, Zezima has claimed his spot at number 1, while the Old Knight had fallen to rank 3. The forums page now also loads, but we can't see anything as it would require you to log in. It even has this funny little GIF above the login page that honestly I think even today's player base could benefit from. Wait, did I make that joke last time? This is what I like. I think we should still have this on the login page today. Oh no, I did. Moving on to 2005, we got another website redesign later in the year. Along with it comes the Jagex shop. No, it doesn't sell merch, it sells ringtones and phone wallpapers. It was already bad enough having the RuneScape theme blast through your speakers at 2 a.m. while your parents were sleeping. Now your phone could do it too. However, it seems only the USA version of the site was backed up, and for some reason you couldn't buy them in America. If we take a look at the sidebar, I noticed that in 2005 you still had the option to play Classic if you wanted, and it's surprisingly still fairly popular for what it was. Although RS2 had 80,000 players online at the time, Classic was still rocking a solid 1,000. Not bad for a game abandoned a year prior. Throughout 2006 and 2007, the website for the most part looked the same, with only a few slight changes. It actually looks pretty close to the version we have on Old School today. RuneScape Classic remained open, but they stopped allowing new players to try it, and if you stopped playing Classic for 6 months or more, you would lose your ability to ever play again. They were absolutely trying to get people to quit that game and move over to the newer version. Even so, by late 2007, it still had around 150 to 200 players online at most times. If we check out the Jagex shop, it looks like US players can finally buy something. A RuneScape poster that only costs £4, or a little under $5 in US dollars. The website that sold the posters still exists today, but unfortunately the RuneScape poster is no longer available, but for $5, if it still was, you bet I'd pick up one of those right now. Back on the main site, Jagex had also released a number of free wallpapers. I showed a few off in my first video about the RuneScape website a year ago, but I figured I'd show them again because they're cool and pretty nostalgic. Jagex also added a new guide to the site for parents, where it explains the game, the cost of the game, and even the educational benefits of RuneScape. It has things like problem solving, teamwork, and my favorite, that RuneScape even teaches kids how to balance their work time and play time. Unfortunately, that last concept didn't seem to stick, as many players have foregone working at all to instead get 200 million XP in every skill. Speaking of the high scores, if we take a look in early 2006, Zezima is still at rank 1, and the Old Knight had climbed to 2nd place. However, over the course of the next few backups, the Old Knight's username slowly descends the ranks, as he sadly passed away in mid-2006. Now for something that's either going to make you feel super nostalgic or old, or maybe both. A lot of you watching probably found RuneScape through a browser game site called Miniclip. Well, luckily for us, the Miniclip affiliate page was also saved by the Wayback Machine. So for those of you that played on Miniclip, you probably saw this screen every time. With the Miniclip website closing its doors soon, I absolutely wanted to include this page, especially because my friend who introduced me to RuneScape found it through Miniclip, so there's another butterfly effect moment. Without Miniclip, you probably wouldn't be watching this video right now because it wouldn't exist. Now, every website past 2007, I already looked into fairly in depth in my previous video with the old backup, which was funnily enough saved by a bunch of random middle schoolers. You can check that video out on the right hand side of the screen right now. And don't forget to download Hero Wars using the link in the description below.